Welcome back to Curve. My name is Jay, and today I come to you with another one of our Hudson River animals, the Atlantic sturgeon. Now this is going to be a little different today. We're not going to be showing you a live specimen. We actually have a model, and that's because the Atlantic sturgeon, they are a protected species. They almost went extinct, so you cannot have these in tanks. It's illegal, and if you look at the size of it, you really couldn't fit it in a tank. It's so large. But you know, this model does show us a great kind of example of one here, so that's what we're going to look at. Now, if you know much about the Hudson River, you definitely probably have been driving along the river, seen some signs that say Hudson River Estuary. That's kind of just telling you what part of the estuary where you are. But you see a picture of this fish because they are really kind of what the Hudson River is known for. It's really the symbol of the river, the sturgeon. So, really cool fish. And they've been on Earth for over 200 million years. Very prehistoric, going way back in time. And you can see the kind of very prehistoric-like body. They are anadromous, which basically means that they are fish that spends most of their life in the ocean, but they do spawn here in freshwater in the Hudson River, and that's where they're born. And they will stay here for about 2 to 6 years before then going out to the river, or to the ocean, I should say, where they'll spend most of their life. It's kind of the opposite of eels, which spawn in the ocean and then spend most of their life in the freshwater part of the river. It's a really kind of cool life cycle they have. And these sturgeon will kind of migrate between the river and the ocean, usually in the spring. That's when you sort of start to see them migrating. Similar to the eels maybe a little bit earlier, but they are migrating fish here in the river. Let's talk a little bit about their body. You can see obviously very large. This is a mold of one that was about 200 pounds. You can see some features on it. They have that kind of forked tail at the end, and then you can also see this right here. Those are the gills. A lot of students ask, is that blood? Nope, that's the gills that help them breathe. They have this long kind of snout here. And then here at the bottom, you can see they don't really have a typical mouth that we think of. It's more like a suction kind of mouth. That's because they're really not hunters. They eat small little crustaceans, worms, mollusks, things like that at the bottom of the river. They're not very good hunters, really more scavengers than anything else. And then you can see this here. These are really cool. These are their barbels, and catfish have them as well. And this is what helps them kind of sense where they are at the bottom of the river. Now these you won't really find along the shorelines. They are way down deep, usually 40, 50 feet down in that water where it's very murky, muddy, very cloudy. So they need these barbels to feel around to smell for any sort of prey, and that's what they use them for. They really can't see down there at the bottom of the river. So that's a very important adaptation that they have. Well, like I said, they can get larger than this. They can get to be about 14 feet long. You're not going to see many of them that size, but you know, fully grown, some of the really large ones you can see about that big. This one would have been about 200 pounds. It was caught by a fisherman when it was still legal to be fishing them, and they made a mold based on this fish. Now they are a protected species. You cannot fish for them. You cannot hold them in tanks. They were placed on the endangered list back in 2012 by NOAA. Their numbers are rebounding, which is great, but they still do face a lot of hazards out there in the river, whether it's waterfront development, climate change, big barges going up and down the river which can damage or injure them. So there's a lot of obstacles they do face out there, but we are seeing them recover, which is a great thing. Now, taking a closer look at their body, you can see these little kind of plates here that run along the top, and you can also see them going down the side as well. Those are what we call scutes. And this is an example of one here. This is actually from a real sturgeon. Every now and then we do see one wash up on shore when they die naturally, whatever the cause may be. It's rare, it doesn't happen. Maybe every few years we see one. But this was actually artifacts from sturgeons that washed up. Now, you actually do have to have a permit to keep these parts. And if you ever do see one washed up on the shore, you should immediately report it to the DEC because they do try to track this information. But these scutes are kind of like their body armor, which covers their body. And you can see they're really hard. So even though they're such a large fish that don't really need the protection, they do have it just in case. And then you can see them running down the sides from the skin of one. You can see the scutes there, just like we have here. Flip it around right there. And then This is actually a tail from a sturgeon. So this one you can see compared to the tail over here, much smaller. So this one would probably be a 2 or 3 foot sturgeon, not very large, but eventually they can grow, of course, to be this size. And there's other parts of the country that have sturgeon as well, like the Columbia River out in Oregon and Washington. They have huge sturgeon out there. So they are in a lot of estuaries along various oceans where you can find them. But really cool species. Like I said, we do see them here in the river. Very rarely actually see them with our eyes because they're way at the bottom of the river. But they are out there and really an important symbol of the Hudson River. So that is our Atlantic sturgeon, and hopefully you can come by, take a look at our model. We have a lot of other fish on the model here as well, like the striped bass, which is probably, I would say, the second largest fish here in the river. They get to be about 3 feet long, so not close to what sturgeon can be. But there's a lot of other cool fish here that you can check out, and you can see our turtles as well. So that's all we got for now, and we hope to see you soon.